welcome to Aftercare Conversations, brought to you by Remote Sober Support Network. I'm Jill, and I have the privilege of just talking, speaking, conversating with my good friend Brooks. Brooks, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, all right. Once we start to record, I lose my train of thought, but I'm on my third episode now, so I shouldn't feel this way, but here we go. Ready to roll. All right, Brooks. So I really want to begin with the beauty of the now. I really want to tell our viewers just how much you've fallen in love with your recovery. And I feel like I can say that because I've known you for such a long time, and you love being sober. And I just want to go there with you about like, why do you love your sobriety? What has it brought you in your life today? And we'll just start there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that, things just took such a dramatic shift in my life when I made the decision to, go get help. And it was coming from me rather than my family telling me, hey, we're going to send you off to this place because you're a bad 17-year-old kid. Not bad, but, I was killing myself in reality, and it was just unfortunate event after unfortunate event and near-death experiences and, and just crazy things happening. That when I finally went and got my act together, if you will, I found things in life that I really loved. And, during my addiction, I really was not doing much with my life at all. It was very stagnant. And I saw a lot of the people, my friends and family, that were doing things and sort of progressing in life. And I felt like I had the potential to do that. But, using drugs and kind of the depression and unproductivity that came along with that was keeping me from realizing any potential that I had. And so, when I got sober, it was, a journey of building relationships with other people on that same journey and finding things that I loved in life. And, a lot of those things are, nature and exercise and food and music. And music was always a thing, but, in a different light in sobriety. And so, I found things that I was passionate about that I was able to participate in my life, sober and present, and, develop a sense of gratitude and spirituality and appreciation for the now and appreciation for, having an opportunity because, my life was so bad and so, close to the edge of death so many times that I'm very lucky to be sitting here today. And, a lot of opportunities presented themselves by, me working hard and trying to do the right thing and helping others. And, that's another huge thing that I think, recovery that's what it's all about. That's step number 12. And you keep working that one, obviously, in the 12 steps. And, I think to simplify recovery, like that's what it's all about is like, if you're continuing to help others and
Yeah, absolutely.
Continuing to give it away, like that's how you kind of keep what you have. There are definitely some of those isms from 12 steps or, just recovery in general that are isms for a reason. So
totally. No, I wasn't going to go here, but I think I am. So my husband, I overheard him a couple days ago identify himself as a preppy drug addict that's in recovery. And I'm going to go there with you because I decided to pop my collar for you because addiction, alcoholism, it doesn't discriminate. And I think that we know that. And I guess I'd like to just start to go there about your childhood and like how you grew up and how did you get to where you were in that yucky spot? Because I've met your parents and they are super rad. And I think that parents need to know that sometimes it's not things that they do either. I think that's a big one that I don't think we've touched base on yet. We could be walking and doing everything right, and our kids have to go through stuff and they have to pave their own way. It's something that I'm constantly working on in myself with having 4 children and 2 older boys. um, they have to go on their own hike and their own journey, and yeah, let's go there. Let's do that. Let's just go
Right.
there right now. Tell me about your childhood.
Yeah. I mean, I had a very normal childhood. I grew up in the Midwest in Kansas City, and my family was very supportive. They're, like you said, just great people that I have a very strong relationship to this day with. And um, I think that early on in my childhood, things were very very as normal as they could be, except for the fact that I think I felt a sense of differentness than, a lot of the people I was growing up around. I had, most everybody else was really into, professional sports and playing sports. And like, I sucked at basketball. I'm short. And, I also just like didn't care about it and didn't
Yeah.
find passion for it. And so, I was really into music and writing and, reading and things like that. And I felt it was hard for me to relate. And video games, by the way, I was big into the
Oh
video
yeah.
games.
Oh yeah.
So beyond, I think what happened for me is when I was in about fifth, sixth grade, that differentness, that feeling of like, not enough, or I'm, don't relate to the world around me,
Mm-hmm.
sort of accelerated and turned into, me being fascinated with the world of, drugs and mind altering substances. And so I think if anything, it's like I had a lot of freedom. And I
Yeah.
think that, one thing that and it's not for lack of trying on my parents' part. I just did whatever I wanted, like I
Yeah.
was kind of
Yeah.
like who I was, and I didn't like to follow all of the rules, and I like to do things my way. And so, that journey led me to, experimenting with drugs at a really young age. I'm talking 11, 12 years old,
Um,
you know, smoking weed, getting into the medicine cabinet, going online and researching like which of these pills is going to make me high. And,
yeah.
um, that sort of accelerated extremely quickly for me. And throughout grade school, like everybody else was experimenting, which was also, it was very young to be doing that in the first place. Um, but I took it to another level. And
Yeah.
so, that I remember the first time that I got loaded, we stole liquor out of my parents' medicine cabinet. They were on vacation. We had a babysitter. My friends were over. And I remember going out into the backyard and thinking, wow, like I'd like this feeling too much. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a grandpa who struggled with alcoholism, who was sober, for a number of years. And I kind of, call it self-fulfilling prophecy, but, I kind of knew that I had the gene.
Yeah.
And things progressed throughout my teenage years and, throughout high school, I found other people that wanted to, were kind of had the same interests. And um, it accelerated pretty quickly. But again, I was the one that took it to another level beyond what everybody else was doing. And so, I don't like to, I think that some folks go through serious trauma in their life that leads to addiction, or,
Yeah.
there are certain things in life. Like there was really no event for me that caused me to start using, other than that feeling different. I also,
Mm-hmm.
having ADD and like not caring about anything in school that I didn't really love.
Totally.
It's unless I was really passionate about it, I was like, yeah, I don't care. I'll just like, I was smart enough to pass the tests and like do what I do, the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as things sort of evolved, it went to a dark place. And
Yeah.
by the age of 14 and then 16, I was getting sent off to these places to get help because I was unmanageable. I was loaded and at family events and every single day, and using hard drugs, using benzos and opiates, and it was really downers for me. That was the thing. Went off to rehab for the first time at 16, at a wilderness program in Montana, which was a cool experience.
Yeah.
Definitely was not enough for me to stop using. And I came back, and that's, my mindset was, okay, I'm going to not use drugs. I'll just drink and smoke weed, and that'll be fine. And so that didn't work out. I started drinking like a fish. I got a fake ID. I found a liquor store that would sell to me, and I looked I looked younger than I was. I was 16, but I looked like I was 14.
Oh my gosh.
So, my parents did a lot of things to try to stop that, but it was, obviously not in their control. And that's one thing that's hard as a parent, is like, there's
Yeah.
something, like you're saying, some things are in your control and some things aren't. And you try to do the best to guide your child in the right direction. And, again, the rest is just not in your control. So,
Yeah,
uh,
no, you talking about just like not feeling a part of and like, feeling isolated. And I think that even as an adult now, and I'm 42 years old, like there's a social life and there's drinking and it looks good. And it's like I could easily, you just can kind of just become that and you can feel like you're a part of something when and in reality it's just like I don't know, like is this serving me, is this serving me, and I don't judge, that lifestyle by any means. But I know that we all have to take a look at ourselves and be like, am I my best version? Even as an adult. And that's why I so dig your like holistic views, how you take care of your body, and how you connect with others with hiking, because you want to be a part of, like we all want to be a part of, and we want to have our people and our group and our brotherhood and our sisterhood because it's so important. It's so
yeah.
important. Um, so wilderness school, cool experience, came back, did the whole like California sober thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard the term and I wasn't really sure what it included. And I was kind of on the same page with you. Yeah, wasn't sure what was inclusive of it. But what I will say is like my opinion on, what people are, doing to consider themselves sober or not sober. Like if people are not dying from fentanyl on the street, I am happy that they are doing whatever it is that they're doing. And I think it took me, losing somebody that was really close to me to, come to a place where I realized, and maybe this is a radical view, but, everything that all of these street drugs have fentanyl in them now. Okay. And
Yeah.
so if everything that people are getting on the street has the potential to kill them at a pinpoint size, like maybe this model of like making people that are addicted to drugs and using drugs criminals and putting them in jail, and it's all illegal, and so they can't go to a source to go get clean stuff, just heroin or oxycontin or hydrocodone or meth or whatever you're doing. Okay, then people are just going to keep dying. People are going to keep overdosing on fentanyl, and it's in the drug supply, and it's everything is cut with it, right? So I may be going down a different path than California sober here, but my opinion used to be like, abstinence is the only way that you can, be successful in recovery, and that, it should be the thing that you sort of tout and try to get everybody to commit to. And if somebody is like, going from using fentanyl to using Suboxone and then smoking weed, and, then they find their path to, not using anything, like, I think you have to let them go down that path. That's the path that I went down. And so, I don't think, I think I've adjusted my opinion on that a bit. And like, I think about the people that have, in my life that have passed away. And like, what if there was another avenue, for them that was available where, it was like a more compassionate route that was, not criminalizing what they were doing, but allowed them to be in that place where they were in addiction, but they had access to drugs that weren't going to kill them. I just think it's different than 10 years ago when I was, I mean, I've been sober for over 10 years. And when I was using fentanyl was not a thing. It didn't, it wasn't in the drug supply. And so, And I have friends that um, have been on the sobriety journey with me, and then they start, they're just like, I drink a little bit and smoke a little bit of weed, and I'm like, at one point I would have tried to say, hey, like you shouldn't do that, and yada yada yada, but like that maybe turns them off from me
Yeah.
for being a person that they would reach out to for help in the future. And so I can share them what has worked for me, which I think, going back to kind of the idea of AA, 12 steps, attraction rather than promotion, where it's like draw people to you rather than try to say, hey, this is what, don't be like a zealot trying to shove something down their throat. And so I think that's an area that I've shifted a little bit. I still personally practice abstinence and believe that that's what works for me. And, I know that I've tried just smoking weed. I've tried,
Yeah.
just drinking, and like, it doesn't work for me personally. And so, I'm not everybody. What works for me may not work for you, but that's what worked for me.
I'm not in recovery myself. I love my husband and I'm on the family support side, but I too have been feeling very similarly to how you are and what you're speaking of, just because fentanyl is huge. My husband and I just sat down with our sheriff that's here locally, and he was just talking about, I mean, it's more than tripled. I don't even know what the numbers are of deaths there have been just in our county alone with fentanyl. And so they're really starting to incorporate the MAT program into all of the jail systems here. And yeah, I had a really strong opinion about it before, because I would look at, like, just like with you, for my husband, abstinence is the only thing, he tried to do the whole I can drink. And I'm like, bullshoot, you can't. Like, and so we went down that road. And like you said, it's like what works best for yourself. But the medically assisted treatment too, it's like you get a heroin addict, they come into jail. Let's at least put this on this. Let's give them this shot. They're trying to do shots now too, because I guess it lasts a little bit longer. You wouldn't have the lines of having to like give them all their pills and whatnot. But I understand that approach just because of the crisis that we're in right now. I do. I really do. Is it would have been right for my husband? No. Am I grateful that my husband, yourself, and a whole lot of our friends got sober when they did? Yeah. Yeah, I am. I just can't imagine now. But I think that there are good people that are trying to like fight this fight, and they're trying to do it with the approach that you spoke about. It's just like with compassion. I too would rather people come to me knowing that I didn't have just this huge, big, strong opinion, because I want to be there and meet that person where they're at and what works best for them. No doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it very well. Compassion first. And,
Mm-hmm.
if that's where that person is in the journey, is like they're in jail and they've been using fentanyl on the street, uh, they may not be ready to go abstinence based. And instead of them going and getting a bad batch of stuff that kills them, if there's another option available to them. I mean, I have views as radical as like, shoot, you know, drugs, period, people are going to use. Like, that is a human thing. It
Yeah.
happens in every country in the world. The war on drugs is a failed experiment. We can make the penalties whatever we want them to be. We can, try to enforce it, but it's going to exist. It's like,
Yeah.
it's human nature.
Yeah.
And so, you know, why not make the drugs that people are using available through, a medical source of some sort, to prevent more death, and for people to know that they're getting what they're trying to procure, um,
No, it's
because
yeah. No, it's like I don't know the answer, and I probably could like argue with you and then
yeah,
and then I would be like, well, no, what about this? What about this? And I think the thing is that we have to look at the individual, like, because I think sometimes we just put everyone in this mass pile, right? And like, we can't just treat the mass. Like we have to look at the individual of like what is going to work for this particular person. And that's why we need like all hands on deck. We need more people that are in the aftercare community. We need more people that want to volunteer within our jail system. We need community. I mean, there's so many different components that we need. And we just need people with a servant's heart and people that have seen the other side. I mean, like you said, like, hey, this is how I did it. I know this is what works for me, but I'm still going to offer this guy some grace with the way that he's going about it, because I
Mhm.
want to meet him possibly where I'm at someday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think you know the approach of au natural and being completely sober for a while. I personally think behooves anybody and everybody, because I was on so much heavy medication. I was abusing
Yeah.
medication, anxiety medication, benzos forever, and it was from a doctor, and it was like procured legally, and that's a scary part of all of it. So like I'm not I definitely think that approach first is a really good one, but I also think like for somebody that's trying to get clean and so like is ready
Yeah.
to make change in their life.
Yeah.
But then there's everybody else. Then there's people that are in and out of the legal system and like probably aren't ready and don't really
Yeah.
want complete sobriety, and like that's okay too. And I don't want those people to die, because they people have died in my circle, again,
Yeah.
numerous people. So
I think a lot of people, in their college days, especially now, there's a lot of people that parents are confided in me that their kids are just drinking like fish, and it's not serving them. And
mhm.
yeah, it's super hard because the culture, makes it look like it's okay. But there's certain individuals like yourself, like my husband, that will just take it to a whole new level.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the picture of it, the society, it's glorified. It's not even just okay. It's like this is really fun, and this is like you know
Yeah.
you feel like you're not a part of if you're not participating in that. And so it's one of the hardest things for people in early recovery, is to, especially if they're young people, is
Yeah.
that most social gatherings and most social events, concerts, whatever, family events, have alcohol, and they're kind of centered around that. And so
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I think you have to build a life for yourself that's not centered around those things. And yeah.
Well, and that's what I want to know. Like, so you, because you started young, I think you have, I'm going to call it blessed. You've been blessed to experience recovery young also. And like, what do you do? What did you do in order to be okay, with just the social norms and like creating a life for yourself in recovery and falling madly in love with it? Like, what do you do? What does your schedule look like? You can start from the beginning of your sobriety up until now. Because I know you'd mentioned nature,
Hmm.
food. Yeah. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was right before I got sober 10 years ago. I had gained a lot of weight from drinking, and eat. My diet consisted of takeout, pizza, Chinese, and whatever else,
Fast.
like
Yeah.
yeah, fast and whatever delivered. And so um, there was a big shift when I got clean and sober, and looked at, okay, the body is kind of, I have one of these things, and it's like a temple, and I have to treat it well. And so I lost like 50 pounds, and
Wow.
started exercising, started running and lifting weights, and doing circuit training and stuff, and just really enjoyed it, and enjoyed the camaraderie of doing it in sort of a peer environment. um, Enjoyed the endorphin element of it release, and then I felt better about the way that I looked and felt, had more energy. And what went along with that was eating better. And
Mhm.
I changed my diet significantly. I did the paleo diet for like 2 years or something, so I really was
Oh,
avoiding grains and processed food and sugar, which I love sugar, and so that was a hard one. I've since not been so rigid, and kind of, I still make exercise a priority, which is harder with a child at home and an intense job. But, um, I think it's all about figuring out where you can fit it in and
Yeah.
committing to it and doing it regularly, because, we're here for a short period of time. And if you don't take care of your body, you're here for an even shorter period of time, and you,
Yeah.
you may die a painful death. And like that, for a lot of people is avoidable if you're able to exercise and eat well and just do the things that are in your control. And so like that's what I've committed to. And I'm not anywhere near perfect. I love sweets still. I go and eat crumble cookies with my daughter
Oh
every
gosh,
week.
crumble cookies.
Yeah.
Oi.
Yeah.
Oh man, my Dylan introduced me to crumble cookies. We got one, and then we came home with six, and have the caloric intake. Like they say, how much it's not the whole cookie. That's a quarter of it. Like
Quarter. Yeah.
yeah, that's
That's
a
right.
quarter. It's like 750 calories or something for like a quarter of the cookie.
Yeah. So you just fast all day
Yeah,
and have a liquid protein shake for lunch and then eat the cookie and have dinner and you're good.
yeah, it's all about caloric intake on those days. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait,
Yeah.
so okay, I know that you hold down an incredible job, and so with your demanding schedule, and with you being young, and with you being in such like a hip, cool community, what does it look like for you as a businessman now? Like, how do you? I mean, you've alluded to nature and food, but in that environment, like, are you open about your recovery? Are you quiet about your recovery? I actually don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've been very open about it with most people. I think, there's a guy that is a buddy of mine, and we were working on a project for a while to help people in recovery find meaningful employment, because I think it's a huge piece of the puzzle. You get sober and your life is, a mess, and then you want to have a successful life and you don't have a long resume. So how are you going to get back on your feet? And, um, I think that if I was able to figure that out, anybody can. And I think that, the statement that we came up with was visible recovery saves lives. And so like, if you're able to be open about it, and then somebody whose cousin is struggling with addiction needs help, and I'm able to help that person get into a program, or I take their call and, talk to this person who's struggling, which that's how happened to me, probably over a dozen times, because of people know that I'm the sober guy.
Yeah.
And that's like people at my work, or, people that I know from a number of different places. And so, yeah, I mean, I think for me, being open about it and, being proud of that, and sort of like making it a thing that's not, some people have a weird reaction to it. And you're kind of like, oh yeah, well, like I'll make sure not to drink around you or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, like it's not like that. We're not at that stage. You do whatever you want to do. You're not going to bother me, like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I do think, yeah, for me, being open has been helpful. So
I think that the transparency just across the board with just like what I struggle with too. It's like, oh, you do that too. I mean, yeah, I think it's important. And I think that and I think we're getting closer with just breaking that stigma of like anonymity and whatnot. I think that it's a beautiful thing to walk in our struggles, especially like you had alluded to earlier, maybe before we started recording, is that there's just light, like we all have these big, dark, hard testimony stories, but it's like, it's testimony when it's like glorified, when you are like living it. And I know that you are a father now, and you are a husband, and I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. What's it like? You're a married man. You are a married man.
it's great. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I met my wife when I was, still working at a recovery center, and she knew that right off the bat. That was my situation, and was, very respectful of that. And, she's a very smart and driven, and, just like a good natured person herself. And so that was, an important thing for me to find somebody that was, complimentary and understanding, and like brought something to that versus like where that being a weird thing, et
Yeah.
cetera. And so, but yeah, we've been together for, gosh, over 8 years now, and
Wow.
got married 2 years ago, and um, over 2 years ago. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been an awesome journey. And I think, relationships are hard no matter who you are and who you're married to. Like, I think, when you marry somebody, you're marrying somebody just like you that has unique,
Yeah.
positive aspects and, character defects just like you, and so
Yeah.
working through that journey with somebody that, you're committed to doing it with, that you love, and, um, starting a family, and that's been, an amazing journey in its own. And my daughter is, you know, just the best, and is like, melts my heart, and is, cutest, and at this point, is 19 months old, learns new words every week, and, is running around the house, and like, it's crazy sometimes too. I mean, it's like the hardest thing, as
Oh
you,
yeah.
you have a few yourself. So
Oh yeah, and maybe just like four boys. I'm
yeah,
like, I'm just trying to keep them alive. All right, I'm just trying to keep them alive. And I love. I don't know. I always get emotional about the sense that because it's very similar. Your wife met you yeah, while you just were running a recovery center, and I too met my husband, and I fell in love with him. I fell deeply in love with him, and respected his sobriety. It was like it was so special to me, and I know she feels the same way. It's just like that's just part of our marriage, and it's beautiful. And I think that there was a lot of healing for me too, meeting my husband in recovery based on like just my childhood, and yeah, we're always constantly evolving and healing. And yes, there was a relapse in our marriage. But I realized during that time, it's, my husband, Daniel, and my love for his recovery just it goes hand in hand, like, and it's just so important to find your person that just respects all of it, right? All of it, all of it.
absolutely.
How has your perception of yourself changed since you started this journey,
Yeah, I mean, I think, one thing that I struggled with, and, going back to the early days before I started using, was, like, feeling a part of which, part of that is like, developing self-esteem and confidence, and like feeling good about what you're doing in life. And so, um, I think it's important to learn to love yourself, and, um, kind of be okay with both the good and the bad, and then work on the bad, and
yeah,
take advantage of the good, and double down on your strengths. I think, I'm a firm believer in, like, sort of strength based leadership, and like helping people elevate the things that they're naturally good at, and then also work on the things that, maybe are limiting. Maybe things that you'll never be great at, but at least get to the point where they're not detracting from your day to day. And so,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's been about, gosh, I think just like developing, um, a life of things that I feel proud of, and, action. I think action is huge, like the way you're living your life. And, if I'm doing the things that I love, and, I'm like working hard, and progressing in my career, and exercising, and, eating well. Probably the most important one of all that I'm saying last is family, and,
yeah,
um, prioritizing, time with the family. And so I think, all those things are important, and like being present, I think for me is a huge one. I think, um, being able to be in the moment, and, have gratitude, and not be always bogged down by the negative. And,
yeah,
I've been into meditation, as of the last year. And I think, being in the present moment, and also being able to realize that so much of this stuff does not matter. So much of the day-to-day things that weigh you down and stress you out, like, you have to ask yourself the question: in 5 years, am I going to care about this? In 5 months, am I going to care about this? 5 weeks, okay, so maybe it's not worth me letting it ruin my day right now. Maybe I ought to do whatever I can to improve that situation in my power and move on.
Preach it. Preach it. You could just preach it to me right now. Seriously, it's so true. And I think that you just answered what I was going to ask you next is when you're in that like place of just anger, frustration, just like helplessness or whatever, just bad. What do you do to get yourself out of it? So you are
Mhm.
into meditation,
Yeah,
breathing. I'm actually just learning how to finally breathe myself. I don't think I
nice.
actually was able to breathe correctly.
Breathing is so awesome, and breath work, and it sounds woo woo, but I mean it's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, I was right there with you. I was like, woo woo, what? I'm breathing. I've been breathing. But like when you
yeah,
really break it down, I'm like, oh, I have a really hard time taking like inhale. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And she's like,
yeah,
well, Jill, I think you've got some stress that you're like carrying here. And I'm like, nah.
yeah. No, I mean that's a great one. I think I like this one a lot, and I think the way to look at it for me is instead of letting it all be all encompassing, and it's like, okay, well, I'm angry, and it's, instead of saying I'm angry,
Mhm.
it's being able to say, there's anger, I'm
Yeah.
experiencing anger,
Yeah.
and you know is the part of me that is observing myself being angry? No, that is
Mhm.
just the observer. And so if I'm able to go to that place, and that's what I think meditation helps with, and mindfulness is like being able to back out and say, hey,
Mhm.
you are reacting in a way that is, natural, and it's okay. And I don't need to feel, I can feel good or bad about that, but it just is,
Yeah.
like I'm just gonna acknowledge it and let it pass.
Yeah,
And
for
so,
sure.
I think that sort of mindset for me has been like a Jedi mind trick that has really helped me in life. And I used to take things really personally, like criticism or comments that people would make. And then I think I developed a mindset of, you know, I don't care, because it does not matter,
Mhm.
like this existence is so big and so vast that I can't even comprehend it. And am I going to let this one little thing like ruin my happiness and
Yeah.
my peace of mind and the way that I'm feeling? And like it's such a hard thing, because I think that as humans we're sort of addicted to
Mhm.
uh, that predicament, that sort of being attached to feelings and attached to the way that I think things should be, and attached to this model of the world that I've built. uh,
Yeah.
and so I mean I think it's the way. I think the way is to, be able to attach to that place of no place, the place of, the observer, and it's like there's a guy that I really, really like, called Ram Dass, and he's since passed away, but he was a kind of popularized Eastern way of thinking and spirituality in the West. And so
Mhm.
he was a professor at Harvard, and um, ended up going to India and meeting with these gurus in India, and really brought a lot of that mindfulness practice to people in the West. And um, I learned that from him, and I'm
Wow.
continuing to learn. And the goal is to, like, reach a place of enlightenment where you're more in touch with that observer, with that place of no mind, that place of no attachment or ego. And I think people in the Western world may think, well, if I'm like that, then I'm not going to like get anything done, or I'm not going to have the drive that I need to, be successful. And it's not like that. It's, it's just being able to go in between those places, and then
Yeah.
be, still being able to show up for everything day to day, and, have a positive attitude. It's only been a positive influence in my life, and has allowed me to get out of the anxiety and stress and focus on the things that matter. So
Gosh, it's really beautiful because I do know, like, the feelings I feel, they aren't, most of the time, they're not true. It's not true.
Absolutely.
I'm like, okay, I feel this, so it must be. And it's like, no, no. Thank you for sharing that because, you know, I think it's really important because there's just so many different ways when we are walking in recovery. And it's just important to know, like, how do you deal with those stresses? How do you deal with that anxiety? Because those feelings still do come up. I mean, using not walking the good way, walking the bad way, we're here on planet Earth. It's coming at us left and right. And it's so important to have these tools that are accessible because we like to numb it. We like to numb it too. And it just brings us back to, when you were younger and you felt something, I was like, all right, I like this feeling because I am not feeling any of that bull nan, and I'm
Hmm.
not feeling any of that bull nan. And now I'm feeling a part of. And at the whole time, when you really look at it, you're actually probably in more of the loneliest place you've ever been in, because it's fleeting. Alcoholism, drugs, all of it's fleeting. It goes away and then you have to feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing you learn in recovery and in life is, there's no growth that happens from the easy things. The easy things are great and they're necessary because if everything is hard, then, it's constant suffering. But, there's so much good that comes from the suffering, if you will, from
Oh,
the
yeah.
hard parts of life. And so, if you are able to love those parts as well, then I think you'll be a lot happier. At least that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not perfect at it, but um,
Same.
I think it's a better place to be in.
Yeah, no, you're a walking testament of just that. You really are. It's just really beautiful to see how much you've changed in such beautiful ways. And I can say this because I've known you for a really long time. I've known you
Over
for a
10
really long
years.
time.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. And I can vouch for you that you are an incredible chef.
Thank you. I don't
And
know about incredible, but
I would say incredible chef. Good taste in food too. Okay, you know
thank you.
that one about yourself. Good taste in
That's great.
food.
Yeah.
Your constant, the posts that you do with your hiking is palatable. You make me want to go outside, and I love that you just walk in just the truth of your recovery and such love because I see it. I love it, and I hope that someone that is listening can see that. Whether they're struggling or not, to just keep going, just keep going.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just another person on the planet trying to figure this whole thing out, I mean, if I wish I could show the people who are struggling what I was like, and at my lowest point, because it looks very unattainable when you see, people that are sober and that are doing things with their life, et cetera. And you're like, oh, if only I could do that. And then, you can do that. And anybody that is struggling with addiction or alcoholism, which are the same thing, by the way,
Yeah.
um, they can come out of it and build a beautiful life. And, human beings are very resilient, and there's a whole
Mhm.
lot of other great people and things that you can do with your life. And
Yep.
yeah, we're just all trying to figure this thing out. So
Yep. One day at a time, baby.
that's right.